is Caleb from Rokblokz. Today in the shop we got this 2024 Tacoma. We've got our original rally style mud flap kit and we're going to show you how to install it. Here we have the tools laid out that you'll need for install. Today we'll be using a 3mm Allen or 1/8" Allen key. Then you'll also need a 10mm socket and a Phillips head screwdriver. Then you'll also need a level. Here we have the front laid out. What you'll get in your kit is your flap for that corner and then your spacer for that corner. Then you'll also get the hardware. We'll go ahead and put a breakdown of that on the screen right now. Before we head to the vehicle, we're going to pre-assemble our spacer to our flap. To do so, we're going to take our flange or dome nuts and we're going to press them in from the etch side, placing them into the 3 hex-shaped holes on our spacer. Now we're going to take our spacer, align it with the holes on the flap. We'll flip it over, keeping those holes aligned. Now we're going to take our number 10 machine screws and we're going to screw those into the flap. Screwing into each of those flange nuts. With those started, we can take our Allen key and tighten that down. Just get them nice and snug. With that spacer attached, your flap is ready. Now we can head to the vehicle and begin installing. Here we are at the front of the vehicle. We're going to begin by removing the factory hardware. And if you have the factory mud flaps, you'll begin by removing the screw down here, right here, right here. And then we're also going to remove these 2 screws located in the fender. We'll take those, set those to the side. Now we're going to grab our flap and one of our screws with a washer. We're going to take our flap, going to tuck this little ear behind the liner right there, and then we're going to swing the flap up into position, aligning all the holes. I'm going to secure it at the bottommost hole to begin. That'll support the flap. Now I can grab the next screw with a washer and just work my way up the fender. Now I'm going to grab a screw with a washer and a 5mm spacer. So we're going to put the spacer on the back side between the flap and the fender. If you don't have the fender flare, you may not need the spacer. Next, we're going to repeat that for the upper hole. Screw with a washer and a 5mm spacer. Now we can grab our Phillips head screwdriver. We're going to take our Phillips head screwdriver and we're going to go ahead and snug all these locations down. With those snug down but not fully tightened, now we can adjust our flap, grab our level, check along the bottom, set our flap where we want it. Once we get it set, now we can go ahead and fully tighten down all of our hardware. With the hardware fully secured, you can repeat these same steps on the other side. Now, let's jump to the rear. Here we have the rear laid out. What you'll get in your kit is your flap for that corner and your spacer. Then you also get the hardware. We'll go ahead and put a breakdown of that on the screen right now. Before we head to the vehicle, we're going to do like what we did on the front. We're going to assemble our spacer to the flap. To do so, we're going to take our flange nuts, press it into the spacer from the etch side. Now we're going to take our spacer, align it with the holes right here, flip our flap over, aligning those holes. Now we're going to take our number 10 machine screws and get those started into the flange nuts. Grab our Allen, we'll fully tighten those down, getting them nice and snug. Now, with our spacer attached to our flap, we can head to the vehicle and begin installing. Here we are at the rear of the vehicle. We're going to begin by removing the factory mud flap if you have one. The screws will be located right here, right here, right here, and right here. Then we'll also remove the one factory screw located in the fender right here. Now we're going to grab our flap. I'm going to grab one of our screws with a washer. We're going to align the bumps in the fender liner with the large holes in our spacer and mud flap. And then we're going to screw into the hole in between those bumps just to support the flap. With the flap supported, we can go ahead, grab our next screw, and go into that inner mount point right here. Get that started by hand. Now we'll work our way up the fender, going to the next hole. And lastly, for the top hole, we're going to take a screw with a washer and our 5mm spacer. Place the spacer on the back side of the flap, between the flap and the fender, and screw into that OEM hole. Now with those all started, we can grab our Phillips head screwdriver and start tightening these down, getting them just barely snug. With that just barely snug, we can take our level, adjust our flap to our liking, get it set to where we want it. Then we can take our screwdriver and fully tighten all 4 screws. With all the hardware fully tightened down, you can repeat this on the other side. Thanks for watching.